Hi, fourth grade. It's me, Mrs. Weidert from Beadle School. Happy to see you. Today I'm talking about social studies. Yes, today we're going to be talking about neighbors to the United States. You know, the United States is part of the continent of North America. And if you were out in outer space on a spaceship or on a satellite, you would not be able to see any divisions in the land looking down on North America. I mean, you might be able to see mountains and lakes, maybe even forests if you got closer, but there would be no lines on it. The lines are made by people. People, the leaders of a country, form a government in these different parts of the world. And so North America is actually made up of more than one country. And today we're going to be talking about some of the other countries that are our neighbors. Just like you have a neighbor that you sit by in the classroom, or you have a neighbor in your neighborhood, that your house is near some other people that you know, or you're out in the country and there might be a mile or two between you and your neighbors, but they are the people next to you. And so today we're going to talk about the countries next to the United States that make up the continent of North America. And this is North America. We're in the northern hemisphere. We are connected to South America, and the North America, of course, is north of the equator. And let's remember, the further away you get from the equator, the colder it gets. The closer you get to the equator, the warmer it is. And we'll see how that affects our neighbors also. Okay? So, first of all, we're going to find out, here are some of our neighbors. Here's the United States, the lime green section. This is a political map because it's showing the different governmental divisions between countries of North America. So here's the United States. Here's Canada right here. See how big Canada is? It's really kind of big. Okay. Then here is the country of Canada, which is north of the United States, because you would have to travel north from South Dakota to get there. North is up here. Greenland is part of North America. South of the United States, my pen is now pointing toward the south, is the country of Mexico. And south and east of Mexico is a portion of North America called Central America, because Central America connects North America to South America, the central parts. And there are a whole bunch of islands around here and around here that are also part of North America. All right. I wanted to glance at this map very briefly because this is a physical map of North America, and you can see the mountains. We've talked about the Rocky Mountains in North America. Well, those Rocky Mountains go all the way up into Canada. It's just amazing. It goes all the way up here, and then they split off into some other mountain ranges. And also down in Mexico, they have some mountain regions, but not the Rockies. Theirs have some different names. Okay. But here's California, here's Texas, and here's Mexico south of there. And then again, we have Central America. One thing I notice here in Mexico is that I see a lot more tan land, and we'll be finding out what that means. Also up here, do you see how it's more gray and snowy and icy looking here? And here it's more green in the plains. And Mexico also has areas where it's very green between the mountain ranges. And Central America has a lot of green regions. And notice right in here, we have those lines of latitude called the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And part of North America and Mexico are in those tropical regions, which means warmer weather near the equator. So once again, we're going to be finding out a lot of variety. I'd like you to turn with me to lesson 3 in Unit 1, and it's called Neighboring Countries. This is the main question we want to answer when we're finished. With what other regions does the United States share North America? And we are going to be running into these vocabulary words: province, territory, commonwealth, tropics, rainforest, and tundra. We'll also be seeing these places: Canada, Mexico, Central America, Caribbean, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Greenland. You are there. Sometimes I have students close their eyes during this part and just imagine. Imagine soaring far above Earth in a space shuttle. You are hundreds of miles above North America. Still, the continent is easy to identify. The blue waters of the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic Oceans clearly define its shape. You cannot see the borders between the countries in North America. Like most borders, they are imaginary lines. As viewed from space, no countries can be seen. All you see is one continent that all these countries share, and that is North America. Down below, you see the Canadian Rockies, a photograph going across the bottom of your picture, and the caption says, "These are the Canadian Rockies." The Rocky Mountains extend across borders in North America. The Rockies shown here run through Banff National Park in Western Canada. Also, we're going to now be focusing on Canada. And here they are showing you a locator map. Here's the United States, and north of the United States is Canada. And notice it is divided into sections as well. And north of that, a whole bunch of islands up here. And notice how Canada is attached to part of the United States here and here. This is called the southern border of Canada, or the northern border of the United States. And in the northwest region of Canada, we have one U.S. state, which is Alaska, our largest state. And then here is Greenland, and we'll be talking about that in a moment too. But let's focus now on Canada. Canada is North America's largest political region. In fact, Canada is the second largest country in the world. Canada's political regions. Canadians divide their large nation into 13 smaller political regions. 10 of the regions are called provinces. A province is a political region similar to a state in the United States. Oh, I see. So in Canada, instead of having states, they have provinces, but states and provinces are basically the same thing. They're political regions, okay? The other 3 political regions are territories. A territory is an area owned and governed by a country, but maybe it's not settled yet, just like South Dakota used to be part of the Lewis and Clark territory. It's the same sort of thing. A territory, an area owned and governed by a country, but maybe not totally divided up yet. Now, what about Canada's geography? Remember, the geography are the physical landforms and the waterways. All right? Like the United States, Canada has a variety of landscapes. In fact, some landforms and waterways stretch across parts of both countries. Mountains with forests stretch across the western part of Canada. In central Canada, farmland and ranchland cover the interior plains. The Great Lakes and the fertile St. Lawrence River Valley lie in the eastern lowlands. Much of northern Canada is very cold and icy. Well, this makes sense to me because we have mountains that go from the United States up into Canada. And guess what we share with Canada? The Great Lakes, right here. We share the Great Lakes with them. So we have some similar waterways. We share some waterways. And here's another interesting thing. They have their forests and mountains in part of Canada, and then they have interior plains, much like the Midwest Great Plains. It's the same sort of thing, it's just in a different country. Now, it makes sense that northern Canada is very cold and icy because we're getting closer and closer to the North Pole. The further north you go, the colder it gets. The border we share. What border do we share? Because northern Canada is so cold, most people live in the south of Canada. About 2 out of 3 Canadians live within 100 miles of the United States border. So that means 2/3 of Canada, the people live close to the United States. They have plenty of space to spread out. Canada and the United States share the world's longest unprotected border. All right, one of the longest borders. Where in Canada do most people live? In the lower section of Canada. All right. Before we go on to Mexico, I wanted to look more closely at a map of Canada. And this is in the back of your book. It's kind of nice once in a while to see a map that isn't all about the United States. This map is all about Canada. And so the United States are just a cream color. Greenland and Iceland are a cream color. And Canada is the star of the show on this page. And so this is a map of Canada. This is it's mostly a political map because it is dividing Canada up into its provinces and its territories. But it's also a little bit physical because I can see the mountain ranges here. And here I see the Great Lakes that we share. And look at this huge Hudson Bay. That is really, really big. That is incredibly big. And as I go north, I see all these islands. And as we're going north, remember, it's getting colder, 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 colder. You may have heard the term Eskimos before. Also, Eskimos would be what we would now call the Inuit people. It's like a Native American tribe. And this is the Nunavut territory, the Northwest territories, the Yukon territory. And there are some very famous rivers around in here too. You can see that each of the provinces has its capital city with the star. Victoria, British Columbia. I'm looking for, here, Edmonton, Alberta. Regina, Saskatchewan. Winnipeg, Manitoba. Ottawa, Ontario. Quebec, in the province of Quebec. So you may have heard of some of these big cities before. And remember, most of the people in Canada live in these parts. Okay? All right. Let's go on to Mexico. Mexico's official name is Estados Unidos Mexicanos, meaning United States of Mexico. As the name explains, Mexico is made up of states. Like the United States, Mexico also has one federal district that is not part of any state. Like for us, it's Washington, D.C. For Mexico, it is Mexico City. That's the capital of Mexico. And it is its own federal district. Like the District of Columbia, D.C. It is its own federal district. Here's Mexico. It is south of the United States. This is the shape of the country of Mexico. Notice how it has the Pacific Ocean on the west and the Gulf of Mexico on the east. Mexico has a varied geography, like a variety, many different kinds of landforms and waterways. As in our country, 2 large mountain ranges run through eastern and western Mexico. The Mexican plateau stretches between the mountains, and just like with us, This is an area of rich farmland and big cities. Much of northern Mexico, actually, we don't have as many big cities in the middle of the country, do we? Much of northern Mexico is desert. That must be why on that other map it looks so tan. The south has a wetter climate with grassy plains and forests. Mexico's people and economy. Oh, they're going to tell us a little bit about how they make and spend money. More than 100 million people live in Mexico. Most of them have Native American and Spanish backgrounds. Spanish is Mexico's official language. Most Mexicans live in cities such as Mexico City. Many also live along the Rio Grande River, which separates Texas and Mexico, or the United States from Mexico. This river forms much of the border between Mexico and the United States. Important industries in Mexico include manufacturing, farming, ranching, mining, and oil production. How are Mexico's political regions like those in the United States? Well, they have states, we have states. They have Mexico City as their capital, its own federal district. We have Washington, D.C. as our capital city, and it is its own district. Now I want to show you a close-up map of Mexico, and it is in the back of your book. And what's cool with my camera is I can turn the camera so that I don't have to turn my book. Okay? Once again, here, the United States is not the star, so it's a cream color. This is South America, it's a cream color. And the star of this map is Mexico. Here you can see some of the Mexican states, and you can see how there are some really big states and there are some small states. Just like in the United States, we have some that are big and some that are small. Besides the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific Ocean, I also see a little bit of the Caribbean Sea on this area of Mexico. Notice how the shape of this country is a little bit different. Okay? Here's the Rio Grande River. That is a natural boundary between the United States and Mexico. Be sure you go back to these maps in the back. They're really fun to look at and explore. It's fun to look at a different part of the country than just the United States, you know? Now I'm going to need to make this right side up again. So I'm going to turn my camera around. Hope I'm not making you dizzy. Before we go on, this is a photograph of Mexico City. Notice the skyscrapers. It is surrounded by tall mountains. On most days, however, the mountains are not visible because of the smog that settles on the city. They must have some air pollution problems with lots of cars and lots of factories. We're learning about that in science, about how that can cause air pollution, right? All right. So now we're going on to Central America. Like I showed you on that other map, Central America is that part that connects North and South America, although it's considered part of North America. And also, we're going to be talking about the Caribbean. And here is the Caribbean. Now, the Caribbean is part of North America where a lot of people go on vacation, especially in the wintertime, because it's tropical with islands, and it never freezes there. They don't have snow there. It's just like this all the time with the beautiful weather and the ocean all around it. And notice that this connecting part, the Central America, has the Atlantic Ocean on one side and the Pacific Ocean on the other side. Central America and the Caribbean. Central America is part of North America. So too are the islands of the Caribbean Sea. Now, that doesn't mean they belong to the United States. The United States is its own country. Mexico is its own country. Central America is considered its own country. Okay. Central America is a region that is made up of a narrow strip of land that connects North and South America. This region is divided into 7 countries. Oh, so the region actually, it's 7 different countries, 7 different political governments. The Pacific Ocean forms Central America's western boundary. The Caribbean Sea, which is part of the Atlantic Ocean, shapes the region's eastern boundary. So this is the Atlantic Ocean, and this section of the Atlantic Ocean is known as the Caribbean Sea. Notice Central America is the orange colored area, and the Caribbean islands will be colored green. And look at all of those. Some of them are very small. The Caribbean. Hundreds of islands lie off the east coast of Central America in the Caribbean Sea. Together, these islands make up the Caribbean region. Some of the islands, such as Cuba, are large. Others are so small and have so few resources that no one lives on them. Several Caribbean islands are part of other countries. Puerto Rico, for example, is a commonwealth of the United States. Being a commonwealth means that it is a territory of the United States, but that it governs itself. So a commonwealth is a territory that belongs to a country. In this case, Puerto Rico is considered part of the United States, but it governs itself. That's a commonwealth. People who are citizens of Puerto Rico are also citizens of the United States. You may have heard of the Virgin Islands before. The Virgin Islands of the United States, or the U.S. Virgin Islands, are also a territory of the United States. About 50 small islands make up this territory. People who live on the U.S. Virgin Islands are citizens of the United States as well. Land and climate. Central America and the Caribbean are both located in the tropics. This area around the equator has a warm climate all year. Because of the warmth and large amount of precipitation, rainforests cover much of the land in these 2 tropical regions. A rainforest, you've heard of that before, is a wet area, usually warm, in which tall trees, vines, and other plants grow close together. Many people visit these regions to enjoy hiking in the forest. Central America and the Caribbean have several mountains. In fact, many of the islands are the peaks of underwater mountains. That sort of reminds me of Hawaii, doesn't it? Much of the land has fertile soil, too. It helps farmers grow coffee, sugarcane, and bananas, and other tropical fruits. They probably mean like mangoes and papayas. Both regions also rely on selling goods and services to the many visitors that come each year. You know what they call these visitors that come to visit? Tourists. They rely on the tourist industry. What parts of the Caribbean region are also parts of the United States? Well, they just mentioned Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And if you look closely at a map of the Caribbean area, you'll see a listing of these islands, and some of them say US, some of them say Netherlands, some of them say UK, which means the United Kingdom. So the islands have a lot of territories that are parts of different countries. Here's a little extra about the rainforest. You see a photo here of a person that's going on a different kind of a hike through a rainforest. They're on a hike on sky bridges. Visitors to Central America's rainforest can walk across sky bridges. These are some bridges in the tops of the trees. They might see birds such as this toucan perched high in the treetops. And it's so warm there. Now, the opposite of warmth is freezing cold. That would be Greenland. The last region of North America is a huge island off the northeast coast of Canada. It is Greenland, the world's biggest island. Now, boys and girls, some people say that Australia is the world's biggest island, and that is true. But because Australia is also a continent, Greenland is not a continent. It is just the largest island that is not a continent. Because Greenland lies so far north, it has a very cold climate. Nearly all of it is tundra. A tundra is a flat, treeless plain that stays mostly frozen. Greenland is a territory of Denmark, a country in Europe. Still, very few Danish people live there. Most Greenlanders are native people called Inuit, like the Native American tribe, the Inuits. Why does Greenland have such a cold climate? Because it's up north. The further north you go, the colder it gets. And remember, around the middle of the earth, where the sun shines the brightest, that's the tropical region. And then as you go down south, part of the southern hemisphere is warm. It's close to the equator, but the further south you go, the colder it gets also. All right. So, what regions does the United States share? With what regions does the United States share North America? Well, there's Canada to the north, there's Greenland to the north, there is Mexico to the south, there's Central America to the south, and many, many islands. What does it mean to be a Commonwealth of the United States? Well, it means that country or that area is a territory of the United States, but it has its own government. How do Canadians divide their nation? Well, instead of states, they have provinces. That's right. How do the climates of Greenland and Central America make life in these regions different? Well, in Greenland, life would be pretty cold and you would dress to keep yourself warm. And this person's ice fishing. Remember, there are not a lot of trees. There are probably some other creatures that live up here, but it'd be a totally different lifestyle than people who live in the Central American region where it's a rainforest and it's warm because it's near the equator, right? All right. And now we've come to the end. I hope that you will take the time to go to the back, look at those maps more closely of Mexico and Canada. Maybe you can even see some of the Caribbean islands. And also, you can Google places and you can go to Google Earth and see everything more up close by zooming in. I just enjoy social studies so much, and I hope someday to travel to a lot of these places. I hope you get to too. Take care, fourth grade. Talk to you another time. Bye-bye.